We're really grateful for folks who are able to take time to join us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Betty Chan. I am a life coach, a facilitator, and a speaker on the topic of authenticity, or just like a colloquial way I like to say it also is going from a life of grind to a life of gentle. And a little background of myself, I am also an only child, and I'm someone who grew up between generations. So something I find myself often being in these situations is like the bridge, right? I'm the one translating between Cantonese and English, but honestly, also whenever there's conflict in the room too, I'm also helping folks translate what is on our hearts and what is on our minds as well, and the difference between those. So the reason why that shows up is because in my family, and I'm pretty sure in almost all our families, so many of us actually moved through life where it feels like we're, how do I put this? It feels like we're like squeezing ourselves into all the expectations that pile up like year after year, whether that's coming from our family, our parents, like the society, workplace, or our peers. And the result that it ends up feeling is like the word that comes to mind is like ugh, right? Like we feel unaccomplished, we feel unhappy, or just kind of lost about where we're heading. And I really think it's a shame because I feel like we only feel lost if we keep trying to stay on this fixed linear path when the reality is, or maybe this is just my opinion of one, as much as says, if you don't agree with this opinion, we'd love to hear a different one, that like life is just a lot more squiggly and more fun than that. So that's something, this is a perspective I try to bring into my coaching. And I try to encourage folks to embrace and see their life in seasons or in chapters. And I do this by helping folks to slow down and explore without judgment. That's an important part. The moments that feel messy and confusing in our lives and help us kind of like make sense of all these contradictions and help us realize also that they're foundational to who we are. So it's a process that feels simple and, or sounds simple rather, but it's really hard to do on our own. Like I have a coach who supports me in my journey, and I have Ashmi and I have Kareen in my life as well to help me with this process because we all carry blind spots, and I think we deserve to have that time to share those quiet frustrations and then not feel like we have to justify all the weight that we carry. So, to put it briefly, I'm a life coach who offers spaces that are gentle to do hard things. And it's primarily for caring leaders from solo entrepreneurs to managers and to parents, pretty much folks who are ready to let go of that indecision and that noise and start to feel confident about who they are and that they're walking into a life that feels calm, clear, and connected. So that's me. Over to you, Green.
Thank you, Betty. Um, Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for some folks who are visiting us from different parts of the world. My name is Corina Paris, and I am a certified integral life coach and a lifelong surfer. And a lot of what I do draws from the wisdom that I've found by being out in the ocean and being immersed in Mother Nature. I'm really hanging on to what you said, Betty, about squiggly. I'm like, yes, that's a beautiful shape for what life can be, whether we like it or not. I use the shape of the wave. Sometimes it's a beautiful form and it's very clear and inviting, and other times it's weird and rough and turbulent. And so that's kind of how I approach my life, and also the kind of wisdom that I bring into the coaching that I do with a lot of my clients. I work with people of color who are navigating through challenges that they've experienced both as a professional, in life, whether they're mothers, community organizers, fathers, sisters, brothers, aunties, uncles. And so it brings me a lot of joy to be able to work with this group of people and helping folks live a more joyous, authentic, and purposeful life. I'm a wannabe Moana, so I always bring the ocean analogies into the work that I do. So bear with me. But I think it's a really beautiful analogy in terms of there's so much depth in a lot of us, and I like to really encourage folks to dive deep. And there's a lot of light too. There's a lot of life and abundance as well in our lives, and so I take great pleasure and joy in being able to share that space with my clients and with my peers and friends, such as Ashmi and Betty and all of you on the call. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you all.
Great. Thanks, Kareen. Um, I'll wrap us up with introductions. I'm Ashmi Patel, based out of Dallas, Texas. So if there's any Texans, hello. I'm a life coach for folks of color, and I specifically help millennial folks of color break free from survival mode, burnout, overwhelm, and try to help them get closer to a life with more ease, space, and choice. And,
Mm.
when I'm describing my approach, I like to say I'm all about soft accountability and slow journeys. So if someone's looking for tough love or, like a speedy checklist, that's not necessarily my approach. As my friend said, life is really squiggly. And I also think life is already hard enough. I'm not in the business of making it harder. So I just try to help folks who have kind of done all of the things that, they've met all the expectations, they followed all the rules their whole life. And then they wake up one day and they're just like, I don't think I chose this life or designed it for myself. And that can be a really scary thing. So I like to help people navigate that and get closer to a life that they designed. In the social change map, I identify as a caretaker, a guide, and a storyteller. So I'm trying to create a community of care by using my creative energy along with my vulnerability to give people a place where they don't have to mask anymore and they can show up as themselves and
Mm.
feel like they're allowed to bring all the parts of themselves. So that's a little bit about me and what I do. And I see some great things in the comments right now. I think we really speak to a lot of this. I think a lot of folks are saying that it's hard to make space to do this kind of work or to think about reflections in a way that is anti-capitalist or doesn't check all the boxes. And yeah, this pausing to reflect on a regular basis is really hard. And so intentionality, we're here for it. And we'll talk a little bit about how the three of us do that as well. Before we kick off into the discussion, I did want to give you guys a little bit of context on how we even decided to do this together. So the three of us were just talking about how we felt about our years. And, for me
Mm.
specifically, I've had a very fulfilling year, but it's also the year where I probably made the least amount of money. I didn't get any like fancy promotions or anything because I'm at the beginning of starting a business. And the dissonance of that, I think, I was sharing with Betty and Kareen, just felt like if I do feel fulfilled, why am I not allowed to sit with that as a successful year? And I think it was up to me to decide I can, and I don't have to buy into all these other things of what success means. And, I'll have Betty and Kareen add to this as well, but just this idea of how do we get our brain and our heart to match up and connect.
Mhm.
And yeah, and so I think the one of the first questions is just what well, I guess let me give you two a little bit of time to add to the context of how we got here.
Yeah. I think how we got here is we're all fellow gentle humans, and we wanted to support each other in this journey that we're on in starting our own businesses, continuing with the businesses that we have, and we also really want to help people have those moments of pause and to be gentle with themselves. Because as you mentioned
Mhm.
earlier, I mean, like life is tough, so why make it harder for ourselves? And I think what kind of sparked my interest in like having this conversation with you all is that a lot of times it feels very counterculture to go against
Mhm.
like what does it mean to have a successful year, especially when you're coming from a world of like promotions and oh, I bought a house, or oh, I got all these check boxes, right, or I have this amount of money in my bank account. And so it can feel really counterculture to have a fulfilling year that maybe isn't measured by how much money is in your bank account or how many promotions you got or how many houses you have under your belt. And more, maybe it's more along the lines of, I feel really centered in who I am. I had that, or I had space to spend quality time with my family. or to care for myself and take care of my health. Those aren't necessarily like flashy, so to speak, depending on who you're talking to. And so it can sometimes feel very counterculture. And so being in this space, I think, is so important, creating this safe container to redefine and reclaim what it means to be successful. Yeah, so that's very much coming up for me now as you share, Ashmi, and just seeing everyone's comments here and just seeing like, okay, I think we're all kind of looking for a safe space to explore different ways to be and to celebrate success.
Yeah. I'm really loving the use of the word recalibration, because that just reminds me of what you're mentioning, Corinne, of like when we move between different spaces in our life. Like I know for the three of us, we're in our own businesses now, but we come from the 9 to 5 world. So like how do we take what we used to measure success there, and how does that translate, or we just let some of it go, reinvent it completely in the shape that our lives are taking now. And I think around this time of year, the thing I always struggle with is like I am a recovering hustler. Like it just grinding was just the thing I know, suffering was the thing I know, like just being an immigrant daughter, that's part of the DNA of who I am and how I show up. And just like allowing myself to have things count, right? A lot to like the conversation Ashmi and I had 2 weeks ago around letting joy in. Like, where do we start discounting our successes, discounting things, or like overqualifying things in order for it to be considered successful? And also, just like I grew up with a morbid mom, so that's always this like tension of, okay, well, you could celebrate because you had a promotion, and you should. You could celebrate when you got a new job or when you make a bold move and take a huge leap of faith, and we all should do that as well. But also asking myself, like, when I am at the end of my journey, when I am in those quiet moments of the final times of my life, like, what do I want to look back and celebrate? What would make me feel really fulfilled about sharing with the nurse by my bedside, my family members that are by my side, and just the fact that like those are the people I'm visualizing around me as well. So bringing a little of my essence of my morbid mom into here early on. She makes a feature show almost in every talk.
Yeah, and listening to both of you talk, I think for me, the question that comes up, and like it's come up in the comments a couple times already this morning, of intentionality, and how do you even start to rethink what end of year reflection means, right? So like the understanding that all of us are, like this language of recovering hustler, success recalibration. I think the first step is all of us deciding, like, this ain't it. I don't want to measure my success by all these other things. But then it's like, what do you do after that? Like, what are the questions you ask yourself? How do you either surround yourself with accountability or people that are going to help you do this countercultural work, like Corinne mentioned? I'd love to hear about how you guys even started doing that for yourself.
Corinne, I need a minute. Will you buy me my minute?
Warning everybody, we're deep thinkers and we like to take long pauses.
Yeah, definitely.
The connection didn't break. The internet's working. I'll hop in since I'm babbling right now. It was really uncomfortable. I'll start with that. It was really uncomfortable. Also a former recovering hustler myself. I had these hard conversations with myself a couple years ago, and I asked myself, if I keep going at this pace that's set by somebody else or by the societal expectations and the work environment that I was in, if I were to continue to respond to that, what may happen? And that scared me. At that point, like I noticed, my body was starting to react in ways that were scary. Like my hands were hurting. And I was like, I didn't do anything to my hands. Why are my hands hurting? Like I woke up with a lot of dread. Like I wasn't showing up in my best self. And I wasn't like as a team member in my when I was working for a company, like I wasn't I felt like I wasn't showing like the love and care that I wanted to share with my coworkers. And so essentially I wasn't being myself. And so, I kind of zoomed into the future. In the future I want to have a family. Like I want to be a mother. I want to and also I'm right now, like I'm back home in San Diego. I want to be there and present with my mom. Another shout out for her mom. All our moms make guest appearance here. Um, but I was telling myself I'm not going to be as present as I want to be in the relationships that matter to me now and the relationships I'll have in the future. And so there's a bit of like a fire that was lit under my butt in that situation. And I realized, okay, I really need to adjust. How do I redefine my pace? What will help motivate me in redefining my pace? And that kind of allowed me to not just slow down, but help attune to what I'm needing at that moment. Like there's times where I kind of have to dial it up and go, go, go. And then there's times where I get to dial it down and adjust the switchboard and it's medium speed. So all that to say, it's deeply personal. And it was very uncomfortable in the beginning, and it continues to be uncomfortable because I'm constantly having to try things out that feel new and counterculture. So I'm not sure if I answered the initial question, but yeah, it's a very uncomfortable process. But I think long term, it helps me center myself. And there's a lot more of my heart and my body, my soul that's coming to the surface, and that's being able to feel alive. And to me, that's like it's hard to measure that, right?
Yeah.
But it's a feeling that I have inside of me, and it shows up in with the people I'm with and in the work I do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love what you said, so many things, but the last thing about it's a feeling, I think a lot of us are not used to knowing what to do with the feeling. Because as recovering hustlers, there's no time for feelings if you're hustling. There's only time for like looking at the next thing.
Feelings are for the weak.
Exactly, right? And it's like, that is so not true. And as Green just described, you can have so much more of a fulfilling life if you tune into the feelings and tune into what your body is telling you. And, listening to you talk, this is so good. I love good verbal processing. And as Karine was talking, she helped me realize questions I asked myself. And similar to what she's describing, I think for me, it's asking, is this like, who is this serving? Like all of this spiral and me running around and trying to measure my year by other people's standards, like who is that serving? And if we talk about systemic oppression and being in a marginalized community, it's just serving the people who are oppressing us. And it can be, reclamation is a liberatory action. And so deciding to do something countercultural is your small way of like claiming your power back in a world that isn't always wanting to give us the power that is ours. And I also really like to ask, at the expense of what? Like Karine was describing, what am I giving up to do this, like to serve somebody else? And is it my health, physical or mental, or just like, I don't want to do that thing? So yeah, I think that's my roundabout way of answering the question.
I think I'm pulling a similar inspiration from Crane as well, like the mention of like refinding your rhythm. So like kind of like some of the folks mentioned recalibration, which is funny because I think there's like a recalibration that happens from what is standard, and when we have that kind of painful realization of like, oh wow, if I keep going, this is gonna land me in a pretty dangerous place, either mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever it is. It's that is draining us at the moment. But even once you've reclaimed some of those, the thing I'm learning too is like there's a recalibration that happens throughout the year. Like we don't move in a very fixed rhythm. We all have our own rhythm. We have seasons of those rhythms. So just honoring and like feeling those out. And Ashma, I think you're right. Like feelings are such a great indication. It's like our body like trying to communicate, not verbally, but like just trying to like scream at us like, hey, you need to slow down, you need to speed up, you need to just full on stop, whatever it is that it is, its wisdom is trying to tell us to do. But most of us are not taught to listen to that. Like I didn't learn how to do that until my first year of therapy. Like before that, I was like, what's this? What's this feeling thing? I've been told like I shouldn't show any of it, but we're humans, we're gonna have it. So for me, something I'm really embracing around like reflections is following that discomfort and treating it as wisdom, right? So something I remember
Mm.
when I was full time, I would ask myself, like, gosh, like, what are those things I complain about this year? Like, I love a good complaint. I love a good event sesh because I think there's actually always a lot of good information in there about our values, about our desires that have been like tampered down all year. So, things I remember complaining about was like, one, not being able to see friends because I was getting off work way too late, not being able, it sounds silly, but not being able to do laundry in the middle of the day because I'm so damn tired after a long week. I don't even want to do laundry on the weekend because the weekend's meant for me and like my rest time, my playtime. So it's like, wouldn't it be great if I had a flexible schedule to do laundry in the middle of the day? Like little things like that, I would say it's so easy to discount, but it's telling us really helpful things of like what's missing in our life right now that would make it more fulfilling. And maybe there are other ways of defining success, but for me, like that sense of satisfaction, that sense of fulfillment is really what I equate to success at the end of the day. Even when it's about money and time and status, it's like all those, if I look underneath the hood, is really about feeling satisfied about who I am and how I'm showing up.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Betty, what you said about like the different seasons of who we are, um, is really hitting for me. You know, I can't help but not think about like a metaphor I use a lot with my clients is in places where people experience four seasons. You see the trees, the spring and the summer, they're thriving, they're lush, they're green. You know, we find shade and shelter underneath them. It's so abundant with fruit. Um, and then the fall happens and it turns a different color. And then you get surprised. You're like, whoa, these colors are red and then orange and yellow. Like, whoa, like, I didn't know you can do that. And then the winter happens. And then this natural death happens.
Mhm,
Um, and the leaves start to fall and the tree is still a tree and then the cycle continues.
mhm,
And so, you know, thinking about the human experience in a given year, it's always so natural for us to have like, you know, a lot of like birth and rejuvenation and you know, a lot of energy going like spring and summer. Like there's a lot of stuff happening. And then maybe this natural, and then the transition happens. And then you kind of have to take a pause.
mhm,
And maybe some things have to come to an end. And then those things that come to an end must happen in order for a rebirth to happen. And maybe in that rebirth, it's, you know, I used to work 10-hour days and that needs to come to an end in order for me to be able to manage other parts of my life, like even something as, you know, like laundry. That may just seem like a thing on your list, but that sometimes does something to us. It feels like we can like reclaim our days, that there's more to our days than just this. Like we're bringing more of a dynamic day, a dynamic
mhm,
way of being. And so I'm thinking about like in terms of defining success, like just even noticing like that there's different seasons of who we are and then making space for that. Um, I mean, those two things are huge, huge things to do. Like I think even just noticing and having the awareness is massive. And then the subtle, once you start bringing awareness, like those things, the changes happen very subtly. It's very subtle how we start redefining success when we start noticing that there's different seasons of us and that there's room for all of that in our year.
mhm,
Yeah. And listening to both of you talk and like reading the comments, I think also for me, when I'm redefining success, it's really helpful for me to almost track where something is coming from. So like for me, if I'm like, this is a success measure, or I think it is, where is this coming from? And
Yeah.
at least for me, when I first started redefining success, I saw that a lot of the measures that I was given tracked back to toxic productivity, capitalist culture, hustle culture. And then my values were just like over here on the same page, right? I think just realizing how separate they were was like the first step for me to decide where did I want to be in the middle of them, because I think we're all aware that if we live around these, we can't completely reject them, but we can decide what we want to do with them.
Yeah. Like values are a great benchmark, right? Like when you take the time to get clear on that, and it's not a quick process. It is kind of like you dig deep and then you live with what you find for a little bit and you get to evaluate, is this really a value I want to uphold for all areas of my life? But having that is a much more personal benchmark for success. It's like, how am I living like throughout this year? If authenticity was, and sorry, not was, is a value of mine, how have I shown up in integrity with it? And also looking at where was I not able to do it, not in a way to like kick myself in the butt and like judge myself for it, but just recognizing like what gets in the way of our success as well. And that way I feel like we can navigate it a bit better the next time we come up to a similar obstacle also. So that's a good mention.
Yeah, I'm feeling what you all are saying. Our values. And I like too that disclaimer, Betty. It's not easy to just, it doesn't happen overnight. Being able to find your values, like really sit in them. There's also like you test it out. You see, is this really my value, or is this a value that someone has told me to do? Yeah, those are great benchmarks. Because by no means are we all saying, don't get a promotion, like don't get a house. We're not saying that by any means. It's like do that if that helps you live in your values, if that gets you closer to living a life that feels a lot more fulfilling, allows you to attune to what really matters to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got another one for folks to like ponder on. It's like just even looking back and like it's inspired from your question, Ashmi, of like, what does this thing I'm measuring myself against track back to? Another thing to do a little tracking on is just like, what were those big changes and transitions that happened this year? I don't know about y'all, like I can't remember what I had for lunch last week, let alone remember what the heck happened in like the summertime and the beginning of the year. But like taking that time to try to remember or ask people around you to like, hey, what happened in January? Don't be shameful if you can't remember. Have that like system around you to help you recall those moments. Because I know in the comments, a lot of folks have shared like they're doing big transitions right now. They're doing big leaps. And
Mhm.
whether you're still mid leap or you're still in the process of finding your landing pad, like the fact that you are leaping, like that is a huge celebration, I think, for anyone really. And I think for what you can check on personally is like, is this a baby leap for me? Is this a big leap for me? And not to say one is better than the other, one is more successful than the other, but just starting to recognize like where are those areas you can take more leaps so you can like find yourself in places that truly like respect, honor, and like nourish you right back, rather than being in positions where you're drained and your fuel gets kind of leaked out.
Yeah.
Can I respond to a comment that just came in that like, so we have a
Yeah.
comment from Johnny that says measuring intangible assets equals, or like sometimes feels like a participation trophy. And I can totally resonate with that. And And I want to hear in the comments if this resonates with anyone else. But I think, at least for me, what I have found is a lot of what I feel is intangible is just what's not necessarily valued by like society or people around me. But if I really think about it, it is something I'm proud of. And sometimes it's something that's hard for me that's not necessarily hard for somebody else. And I think that's harder. I think that makes it difficult to count because we do this shame thing of like, well, it shouldn't have been that hard for me, so I can't count it as a win or a success. And, you know, like I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, and that completely flips everything on its head of what is hard. Primarily because my brain just like can't do certain things the same way that I've been told it can. And so like I am gonna count like getting through my day or doing my laundry. That is honestly like doing laundry is really hard for me. And yeah, I don't know if that helps with the participation trophy thing, but I totally understand. And I think also coming from cultures, you know, like if you are a child of immigrants or parents who did have to work really hard, they didn't really have time to count anything because they were just busy trying to survive. And so this concept of us being able to take some space and count our wins and count successes is also new. And a lot of us haven't had it modeled for us. And so we're just kind of making it up as we go. And like my friends have said, it's a lot of trial and error. And also, I say there's nothing wrong with getting a couple participation trophies. They're still trophies, and you can still put them on your shelf. So there's that.
It still serves as valuable decoration. I would say it made me realize, like thinking about it, is like the trophies that I truly want in my life are not accomplishable in a year. They might not even be accomplishable in a decade, right? So, like, what does that mean for those trophies? Like, do I not celebrate at all? Do I not give myself kudos for taking the leap, for trying this new thing, for iterating, and so forth? So, I think there's so much that folks who are intentional, who are growth oriented, do to become the amazing people that they are. That those, yeah, like come on, hand out those participation trophies. We should actually be having more of those rather than less in this case.
I agree. You know, it's funny. In school, in grade school, I'd always get the participation award, meaning like I went to every day of school, whether I liked it or not. Another shout out for mom. Thank you for getting me to school on time. And I used to, I was not proud about them. I was not ashamed of them, but I was just like, whatever, toss them in the back. But even in this conversation, like I've noticed like the way in which I'm seeing participation is evolving because what I'm hearing too is you're showing up. You're showing up, you're prioritizing that for yourself, and that is enough sometimes. You know, some of us have had tough years. Like I know I myself personally have had tough years and just waking up in the morning and putting both feet on the ground as I get and standing up tall and showing up was enough for me that day and was enough for me for some of those years. So I'm like, yeah, if that's the kind of year that you need, all right, right on. And I think another way, and you know, as people are going through transitions, I know like the three of us are going through transitions too. There's a lot of you know, there's a lot of beauty in being able to notice when you're showing up, notice when you're kind of like interested in hopping in a little bit more in the ring and, you know, getting yourself a little dirty. And I think just like that to me, like is, like for me, I draw from wisdom of my body, you know, that gut feeling that that's feeling right. There's more ease in wanting to hop in the ring or there's a little bit of tension. I don't want to hop in the ring. I just want to show up. I came here, my shoes are on. That's enough. And so I'm like, thank you. That's it. And so, you know, that's another way in which I measure, you know, success in my year. I pay attention to, okay, where did I experience a little bit more ease? What was happening there? What were the conditions around that? Where was there more tension? Like, ooh, I wasn't feeling good, but I did it. But I still wasn't feeling good. I'm still going eek, even months later. Let me revisit that. What were the circumstances? Who was involved? What was the environment
Mhm.
like?
Mhm. Yeah. Before we, I'm feeling we'll circle back because knowing us, our conversations always move very cyclically. But I wanted to actually put a comment from Allison onto the screen just to like put another pin in the concept of like participating in spaces that are not designed to include, and especially those designed to exclude you, is a triumph. And I think that is a very, very
Mhm.
poignant point to bring up as well. Mm.
Mhm.
But speaking of body sensations, that's something like I want to learn more of, returning to that, because like what feels successful, what is successful, as we've established, differs for person to person, differs from the season to season, even for the individual. Like I'm curious, like how does that feel like in your body when you feel successful about something?
Mhm. For me, it's my heart.
Mm,
It's when I feel it in my heart, and she has a lot of space to roam freely. And sorry, I got a little emotional there. I'm emotional, as you can hear. Um, and I say that because I was in spaces where I heard the terms soft skills and hard skills. And being in touch with my emotions was a soft skill, which is nice, but it wasn't enough.
mm.
That was a lot of tension for many years. I was like, I don't know about that. I feel like being in touch with my heart and my emotions are of value, but I didn't have the language back then. And so I would say, like, when, and now I'm in this space, I've created this space where, I don't use that terminology anymore. I don't say hard skills or soft skills, only when I'm referencing them, like now. Um, and when my heart is feeling very um, centered, when she's feeling like she can breathe, she could have a natural
Mhm,
expansion and contraction, that kind of transcends to the rest of my body.
mhm,
That's how I know when it's when my body is really there. It's really guiding me. And that didn't happen overnight. I think that took some time. I think we all have the ability to access those the wisdom in our body.
mhm,
It's usually hard to explain with words, but we all feel it. When we like turn a corner and like, ooh, something doesn't feel right, or you get that feeling like, oh, somebody's gonna call me. That intuition, it's there. It shows up for all of us. Yeah, it's very subtle, but it's very
mhm.
much there, and it's a place to draw from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad Corinne went first because my my honest answer is I don't think I know yet.
Mhm,
Because as I was like trying to figure out what I was gonna say, all of my answers are still very like intellectualized explanations of what it feels like.
Mm.
Right? Like I was like, oh, I don't have self doubt, or I've learned something, or whatever. And all of those things are true and
mm,
valid. But I don't actually think I know my body well enough yet to say, to even have language to describe like what it feels like in my body.
mhm,
Mm.
Because that's such a new concept to me to even pay attention to. So I feel like I still need some more practice of recognizing what's happening in my body at certain given times to know. I think like the
Mhm.
best answer I could give is I just feel really settled when I'm like feeling
mm. Yeah.
successful. Yeah, so I guess work in progress.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
appreciate that
That's
honesty,
beautiful.
Ashmi. Yeah,
Yeah, likewise.
I think I'm also still in progress, and like I just recognize that I do this self-sabotaging thing in my body where like yeah, when I feel like I'm headed in the right direction and that like I've accomplished something that is aligned with my values, that successful feeling, that fulfilling feeling. There is a subtle thing, and like Corinne, you mentioned how what you feel in your heart kind of like echoes throughout your body. So there's like a harmony that I imagine is like happening between our head, our heart, and like every other part that makes us up. Um, but there's this fear that just showed up of like, oh man, if I like let myself settle too much, am I going to come to a full stop? And then I like generate that
Mhm.
anxious energy again to try to get going, to try to find distract myself or get excited about something new and not actually stop and appreciate the success that I've already accomplished and that I already have in my hands. So I never realized that was showing up. So that was interesting to see that in this conversation. But for me, it's also like a settling of sorts, like my shoulders drop, I would say. Um, I'm also kind of, I got to keep noticing this, but I think there are two ways it shows up. Like there is like the excitement version where like as we know last time in our talk we're like when we get excited about something we want to wiggle. So there is that like energetic movement that I feel as well. But there's also the version where like it does feel very calm and steady, like I'm just paddling softly through a
Mhm.
quiet river kind of vibe.
Mhm. Mhm. I appreciate you both sharing, and I wouldn't be surprised if other folks on this call started kind of like, because I was witnessing both of you kind of pausing and being like, okay, here's the brain, here's the cognitive side that's kind of firing up, and then where am I noticing in other parts of my body, and using like that metaphor about like paddling through a calm lake. That's definitely a way of connecting with your body. Or even how you both describe like when you're excited, you wiggle. Like I definitely do that when I'm about to eat. I'm like, yay. And I'm not surprised if there's people on this call who are also like, oh, is it lunch soon? Or like, I'm hungry, and like wiggling, like just bringing that attention to our bodies. I mean, it's beautiful when it happens in a collective, and I think it's also very important to do it in spaces because yeah, sometimes life is so fast. There's not a lot of space to slow down like this, right?
Mhm.
There's not a lot of room to start like to feel into like, the little parts of your fingers, the muscles, the tendons, the joints, when you got places to go. So I kind of was witnessing us like doing that as a collective, slowing down and noticing our bodies. So I appreciate
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is me taking a moment to like complete my thought before I try to say it out loud. When I think about that, I think it helps me also let go a little bit of like the control aspect of success.
Mm.
Mm.
And like, I think sometimes I get too attached. Like, in this idea of reclaiming success, I think, as we're saying, it's all trial and error. Um, I don't know about you guys or everyone listening in. When I'm first trying something out, I tend to overcorrect and go and swing
Mm.
completely the other way. And so reclaiming, it's like, oh, I want to reject all these things, but I'm still going to be just as attached to the other end. And like all my it's still going to show up just on the other side.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, and I think I just brought that up to see if either you two or anyone in the chat has any sort of tools or tips or similar struggles of like how to let go of that grasp on what you think success is. And maybe if you let go a little bit, you're more likely to see the success that is like meant for you or going to show up for you.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay, you're stirring
Great.
up a question in me, Ashmade. What choose one, not to say it is the one, but like the one that comes to mind and feels the most right at this moment. Like, what is that one metric you want to let go this year so that you can be closer to your definition of success next year?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like
Mm.
completion.
Okay, yeah, that's gonna be mine too.
Don't count it as success unless it's fully completed. So
Hmm.
like to
Mhm.
take it back to something as simple as laundry. Like laundry has many steps and you can successfully complete many of the steps. But unless it's like fully washed, dried, folded, and put away, I just like don't count any of the other things that happened before then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
And so, yeah, I think I want to let go of this attachment to completion being like a success marker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Karina, how about you?
Well, first of all, that completion feels good. I will call that out. It feels good, right? It really does. It does. What also doesn't, what also, so that feels good. So I want to call that out. But I've definitely had days where all I'm doing is checking boxes and I'm like, but I feel like I'm not moving towards something larger. Like answered all my emails, went to all the meetings, complete these tasks, went to the bank, did all of that, and it still doesn't feel like it's moving towards something larger and something more purposeful. And so I've definitely had moments like that, seasons. I'm sure I'll have them in the future. But I think a question that helps, that I've noticed in myself personally and also with clients that I've worked with that helps like redefine success is asking themselves and myself, what do I want to commit to? You know, given, and then you get to fill in the blank in terms of like the time period. It could be a larger commitment, like this, like your purpose here in life, or if that's like a huge wave and you don't want to surf that, maybe it's like, what do I want to commit to in this era that I'm in, or what do I want to commit to in this year? And then the second question is, what am I willing to let go in order to commit myself to that? So those are the two questions that I ask myself and I invite my clients and friends and family, whether they like it or not, to ask themselves.
Yeah, that resonates as well. Huh. Okay. I think for me, it's like a flavor offshoot of what you both are sharing. I think so. Another place I discount and I want to stop letting go of that metric is if it was easy to begin with, or if it wasn't planned outright to begin with, and it happens, I can't count it. I think that is a way I like discount my success. And that can show up with yeah, like things that I didn't expect to happen. I didn't exactly like invite it into my year, didn't work towards it, but it still showed up. I think what I'm discounting, and I don't let that feel like a success, is because, you know, it didn't feel like we did anything, right? But the reality is just showing up is a form of doing as well. And I think I need to count that more as a metric of success.
Yeah, I love all of those things. And I'm looking at the clock, so I'm going to start to wrap this up. But, you know, as we wrap this up, if anybody wants some soft accountability and you want to leave the metric that you're going to let go of in the chat, we'd love to be your accountability buddies and also just like get inspiration from each other. But they do say writing it down or telling somebody else is like the first step to holding yourself accountable. So if you want to share, we'd love to hear what everyone else is hoping to let go of to get closer to their definition of success. But yeah, just moving forward, I wanted to save a couple minutes to ask Betty and Corrine what they're most excited about and what they want to share as we sign off for the day and send everyone into the end of their year.
We've been talking about like endings, and now I'm like, wait, brain flip. I
should have been like, and now we're gonna pivot.
This is how I know I'm in a room with gentle people, when everyone's like, let's ease over to the next question.
We all sat back in our seats.
Wow. I know I might name two things. I know one thing Ashmi and I are starting a new program next year together that is like a huge investment in ourselves, and like just being growing up in the culture that I have, growing up in the family that I did, where like money is a scarcity, time is a everything is a freaking scarcity, right? Like just making that choice to invest in myself feels both scary and really exciting at the time. I think it was another event I was at. Someone shared the word scarce-sighted. I'm like, yes, that's the feeling of a lot of new beginnings for me. Like I feel scarce-sighted about this. But I think something that maybe even be happening in the next few weeks is actually sharing a bit more of my creativity with folks. It's not quite what I do in life coaching, but what I do as a result of being a coach and having the mindset of coaching is actually planning out the next year, not in a fixed way, but like what are the, exactly like you said, the self accountability and like guardrails and little bumpers that I can put into my year and invite myself to slow down and reflect, as opposed to doing it all within a year. Can I do it throughout the rest of the year? And a way I do that is through my bullet journal. So I've been taking little time lapse videos of me setting up next year. So that might be something I'm excited to share with folks.
Mhm. I like that. I like that.
Mm.
I want to see it. I'm inspired by that. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Betty, around like the creativity. I'm excited to lean more into my creativity. I think for a while I told myself I'm not a creative person, and then I'm like, wait, who said that?
Mm.
I think we're all creative people, and so I'm very excited to find that outlet, find that channel. I notice my creativity coming up a lot in the work that I do with clients, especially in the somatic stuff that I'm dabbling with. Um, so on a personal note, I'm excited to find more outlets for my creativity in the healing spaces. Going back to the motherland in January, which is the Philippines, first time in 20 years. I'm going with my
Wow.
fiance, my parents, and so I'm very, very excited to go. I'd love to attend an arnis class, which is a Filipino martial arts class with swords.
Yes.
I hope we don't. I'm excited. I don't know. I hope I come back in one piece to share more. So on a personal note, I'm excited for that. That's coming up in the new year. And then also, it's also personal and it's professional. So it blends both. I'm starting a new program, and it's to commemorate this year and to commence the new year. And it's called the Year in Bloom. And so
Mm.
enrollment starts now through the beginning of January, and I'll be guiding folks in one-on-one coaching to celebrate, to pause, reflect, and celebrate, and also like sit with some of the discomfort of last year. I mean, this year in 2023. And together we'll design a roadmap so they can slide into the new year feeling supported, and feeling aligned in the values that they have upholded or have built throughout the years, and incorporating a lot of the somatic work that I've been doing for myself and with a couple other clients. So I'm really looking forward to doing that and supporting others. And who knows, maybe when I get back to the Philippines, I'll incorporate, some artists with my sword.
I'm
So
still dreaming of a program where I can bring my boxing into coaching. So yes to that.
stay tuned, y'all. That might happen. But yeah, I'm excited for that. And yeah.
I love.
Ashmi, how about you?
Yeah. All the things. I'm also hoping to go back to the motherland, India, next year, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, this is the longest I've been away, and so hoping that works out. Mexico City has been like on my bucket list for a really long time, and this program I'm doing with Betty like kicks off in Mexico City, and I'm all about. I feel like I obsessively manifested that into my year, so really excited about that. And then something that the three of us are doing is we've created a bingo card for ourselves. So this is a really fun idea if anybody else wants to do it. We just like made our own bingo card, filled it with like 24 things. And as you go through the year, you check off the things on your bingo card and give yourself prizes or celebrations as you get rows in the whole box. And I think for me, it's just going to be like a really fun way to make sure I have like a balanced year, but also take the time to celebrate doing the things that I wanted to do. I'm giving myself permission to change the things on the box because a year is a long time. And we've talked a lot about seasonality. So maybe I'll revisit it every quarter to make sure that it is resonating with what I want to do. And yeah, I'm excited to have a really open roster for new clients to work with. I think the more I think about working with clients, the more I'm leaning into just helping people like take the time to pause and reflect, let go of some of that shame, and really do what they want to do. It sounds simple, but it's really scary. And I like to give people the space to say that it's scary and just be okay with that. So, yeah, I'm honestly really excited about next year. And I like to say that and feel it in my body. I'll figure out what that means, but I'll keep everyone posted.
Yeah. I just love hearing that we're all inviting our own forms of success. And like that is, dreaming is another way to reclaim that success as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So as we wrap up today, just thanks everyone for coming. Really good engagement in the chat, like from everybody.
Thank you.
Our websites are in the comments if anybody wants to get in touch with us. You can also just DM us on LinkedIn. We like to talk to people. We like to hear from you. So if you just want to chat or ask a question about something that one of us said today, pop into our DMs. We'll have a conversation. And like the three of us said, we have open rosters for clients next year, and we're really excited to meet new people. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all.